everybody, and welcome back to Soul Studios. I'm your host, Soul, and today we're talking about writing and unfinished books. And if you feel called out, then so do I. Welcome to the club. This topic was voted on in my weekly poll, and as of this video's upload, you have a few days to go vote on next week's video. Polls go up every Wednesday and go into effect the following Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go check it out. On to the video. So I used to be a writer. I say used to be, I still technically do write, but not near as much as I used to. I was very much into writing as a child, and I got really into it from the age of 10 all the way up until I was maybe 16. The thing that really kept me going during that time was a story I was writing that worked under the name Reaching for Reflections. It does sound like it does sound like a self-help book, but I swear it is not. It was a fantasy adventure story with a simple yet somehow convoluted plot. To give you a very short summary, there was a girl under a spell that trapped her inside of a mirror, and then this guy with magical lineage was able to get her out, but she had been in there so long that it was just her spirit that came out, so they have to go on this quest to get her full entity back, and it starts this chain of events that creates a big war and, typical adventure fantasy stuff. I thought it was pure gold as a child, and reading back on it now, the premise is actually still pretty neat, but the execution then was rather rushed and mishandled. I only ever finished writing part 1 of the story. There were supposed to be 3 parts. It was going to be a trilogy. That part 1 has had 3 rewrites, I believe. Actually, I think it's more. I have the most recent one on my computer, and I occasionally go and look at it, and compared to the very first draft, it really is 1,000 times better, but there is one underlying issue, and that is that if I ever wanted to truly write another draft and make this story worth reading, I would have to rework the plot entirely and either make it only 2 books long or just cram it all into one big long book. In my head, I lean more towards the latter because of how things play out. In full, the story ends with our main character, named Alexander, coming into his heritage as king and ruler of this huge land called Elendia, and defeating this big bad that has been lying dormant for forever. If this sounds like knockoff Lord of the Rings, then you were only half right. I did take a lot of inspiration from other fantasy books and movies, with the top being Lord of the Rings, but also I took inspiration from the inheritance cycle. No, it was not straight plagiarism. I'm not that evil. I have standards. But also my main villain, Binius, goodness, that is an awful name, was a big fiery dark lord, so maybe there was some inspiration happening. All in all, the main plot of the first book is a plot worthy of a first book. It sets up the land and the characters well, and gives us a problem to solve, and in the end, the problem does get solved. But it also leaves us with a way to continue the story. The only issue is that I didn't plan ahead that far. I planned the first book out, and it was my baby, and I was so proud of it, but I did not plan out the whole story before writing it. I knew how the overall ending would go, I knew our main characters would win and everything would be fine, but I didn't plan the middle bits, the everything else that made it worth reading. I was so focused on the first book, on that initial story, that I just forgot to plan out anything else. So when I tried to think of writing anything else, of continuing the story that I already knew the ending to, I just couldn't do it. It was a mess. And then there were the characters, which while on the surface were fine, also had several underlying issues that kind of made the story worse. There was Alexander, our main character, whose last name was Vagos, by the way, and I will never get over that because Vagos is the coolest name ever. He is very, golden retriever coded, very main character energy, but all of that was very surface level. He's a very surface level character. The most emotion we get from him the entire time is that he's kind of angry that everyone around him seems to be lying to him about things he should definitely know about, which is a good reason to be angry. It's actually one of the most consistent things throughout the book, but it doesn't get better. Everyone just lies to him about his heritage and his abilities and the role he plays the entire time. To the point that every other character seems stupid, because why would you keep so much information from someone that you have to rely on? Like, not even, some books play this trope really well. Like, I'm withholding information because you haven't reached your full potential yet. You're not ready. There's a deep, dark secret attached to this. But no, this is information that he should have known long before going on this quest. Like, simple stuff that everyone refuses to tell him because, oh no, the consequences could be dire. Except they're not that dire at all. They're not dire for them. In fact, for them, this is like a saving. Like, you would need to tell him this because otherwise your entire world is going to crumble. But no, we're going to keep it from you forever. So that's great. Our secondary protagonist is Evelyn, and she's the spirit trapped in the mirror. She's written as rather optimistic despite her circumstances, which is great. She makes lighter scenes in the book very lovely and happy, and that's what her character is supposed to do. And when she's sad, it's felt all around, because that's unusual for her. It makes sense. The main issue with her character is just the inconsistency in the way she's written. Sometimes she has these cool abilities, very useful, but in other scenes those abilities seem to disappear. She's one of the better written characters by a personality point of things. Like, her personality across the board is very consistent. But in actual story consistency, she makes things difficult. Another part is that she just seems useless in the overall plot. This is what I mean by story consistency. She doesn't do near as much as she could, and in some parts of the story, she just seems to not be there at all, despite being literally the entire reason that this story is happening. She is the entire reason this quest gets moving, that Alexander finds out who he is, that other characters do da-da-da-da-da. Like, the entire reason this book is happening, and somehow she gets left out of almost half of it. Not good things. There are two villains for the book. The first being a witch that, oh my gosh, I just remembered the name of. Her name was Carnilla. Awful name. Apparently, I just could not think of any good name as a young child. Y'all will see what I mean in a minute. She's there. She is only seen in the last part of the book, and she really doesn't even do much then. She has one scene where she's actually present. Actually, two scenes where she's actually present. And then she's vaguely mentioned throughout the book, and that's about it. The more active villain is named Pennywise, which, yes, is absolutely a play on the name Pennywise, because, like I said, apparently I just couldn't name anything at all when I was younger. Pennywise is a shapeshifter. She likes to monologue and gives all around very cool female stereotype villain things. That kind of vibe. She gets a few fight scenes, which are actually some of the better written scenes of the story. Like, I kind of like how they're written and how they play out, especially the first scene that we see her in. Very dark, almost a little too dark for the genre. But that's about it. She's the hunter. She gives our hero a reason to keep moving. Reason to not stay in one spot and just keep doing what they're doing. My favorite character in the entire book is another secondary protagonist that is introduced more towards the middle of the book, I guess. And his working name is Melicarno. Yes, that is a horrific name. But he is my favorite character because he's the only one that I feel is... like, he's the only one that really consistently makes sense. From the moment he's introduced, he is this sarcastic, sassy guy who doesn't care at all what anyone thinks. He is a part of the people that hide stuff from Alexander, but I will forgive him for that because he makes up for it by being one of the only people who is open with Alexander despite everything, if that makes sense. Like, everyone's hiding stuff from him, but Melicarno's the only one who actually seems to have a logical reason for doing so, and it's to protect a bunch of secrets related to him and his mentor and stuff that went on in the past. It's a bad reason, but it's a reason nonetheless. He is a sorcerer and has been around for a long time. Unlike anyone else in this book, his reasons for what he does actually get explained over time and make some kind of sense. Like I said before, he has reasons for things. He is strategic. He makes plans and generally sticks to them in a way that makes sense. He likes to call out everyone else on the fact that the stupid things they do are stupid. While writing him when I was younger, I actually disliked him a lot. He was my least favorite character. But as an adult going back and reading over the writing, he's such a joy to have. Like, he also ends up being the comedic relief despite being one of the more serious characters in the book, just because everyone else in the book is so stupid. That, like, the fact that he's the only logical person is hysterical. I also really love, towards the end of the book, him and Alexander kind of have this bromance going on, and it's one of the nicer parts of the book, even though it's not really played on a lot. It definitely should be, because they have more friendship chemistry than Alexander and Evelyn do, or even Evelyn and Melicarno do. Evelyn and Melicarno actually have a history together, whereas Alexander and Evelyn don't, and Alexander and Melicarno definitely don't. But in the end, the friendship that is the most fun to look at is Alexander and Melicarno's, which is insane, because Alexander's an idiot. But it's just really nice to see. He also has a dragon, Melicarno does, and this is another major complaint that I have. Not in the dragon herself, whose name is Gahala, she's great, but in the fact that she isn't used at all. She does nothing. She is in maybe 3 scenes, and she does nothing. She does nothing for battle, she does nothing for protection, she is just there. She's mentioned vaguely. I'm pretty sure for half the book she follows them around, but does nothing. This video has just become a rant, but you have to understand that this book was my baby until I stopped writing it and just gave up on writing in general. I was so proud of it. It was my everything. I have debated so many times going back and trying to write it again, but a huge part of me just doesn't want to touch it. It's this old thing that is almost sacred in my brain because of how much work younger me put into it. It's unfinished, but kind of in a nice way. If I ever wanted to work on it, I could. It isn't stapled down, it's not glued shut or anything, it's open. Writing is neat like that. If you guys ever wanted to hear a reading of the book, just to see what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. I guess I could set up a stream or a video of me reading it. It would be a long one, but it would be worth it, I think. Who knows? Anyway, that's gonna be about it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Y'all stay safe, drink some water, remember to breathe, and I will see you in the next video.